The days went by. The words ceased. The meetings turned into silence, and still the waiting goes on. Unspoken, unrevealed, but present. That person still remembers, still feels, still holds on, even when they pretend not to, even when they try to move on, even when everything around says it's time to let go. There are moments when the name comes back. There are places that still carry the scent. There are songs that still hurt. There are questions that remain unanswered. Nothing was said, no requests, no demands. But the absence weighs heavily, and the memory lingers. You moved on, but something remains unresolved. Something is still open, and you feel it, even if you don't say a word. The waiting continues, silent, stubborn, inevitable, and time begins to take its toll, not in a hurry, but with a presence that refuses to fade away. You moved on. At least you tried. Changed your route, the places, the faces around you. Did everything to forget, to not feel, to not return. But someone is still there, someone who hasn't left that moment in time where you both stopped. Not by choice, but because certain feelings don't listen to the clock. Certain memories don't accept a period at the end. This waiting, it doesn't shout. It doesn't chase after you. It doesn't beg, but it remains. And that is the heaviest burden. Some things don't resolve with time. Some silences aren't absence. They are simply too present. You changed the subject, changed your tone, learned to disguise it. But something in you still pauses when you hear that name, still freezes when you catch that scent, still gasps for breath for seconds, unable to explain why. The truth is, the waiting continued, even after the goodbye, even after the emptiness, even after life went on or pretended to move forward. And it's not about being unable to forget. It's about still remembering too clearly. Those who feel this feel it silently, feel it on specific nights, in songs that shouldn't play anymore, in places that still hold images that only the two of you know. The mind tries to deny it, but the body always reveals it. It shows in the way the heart tightens without warning, in the way the chest feels strange on Sundays, in the way sleep arrives yet never rests. That person is still waiting, with dignity, with silence, with a pain they've learned to mask. But the waiting continues, even if you don't see it, even if you pretend it doesn't exist, because some absences don't fade away, they just learn to exist in another way. And this one still exists. You may not notice, but they sometimes hold their phone, staring at the name, and type nothing. They know they shouldn't, but they feel, and they feel it deeply. Sometimes they dream. Sometimes they wake up in the middle of the night with your presence even though you're not there. Sometimes they see an old message and need to pause for a moment, to breathe, to hold back the tears that still come. It's not drama, it's not exaggeration, it's love that's left without a place. That person continues walking through life, but with something missing, something no one else can fill, even if they try, even if someone new comes along, even if the world moves on, because some people can't be replaced. Some stories don't allow for a second edition. You might say it was better this way, that it was the right thing, that it's all in the past. But you know it hasn't passed, not for them, not in the way it seems. There are moments when the name pops up out of nowhere, in the middle of a conversation that has nothing to do with it, in the middle of a movie, in the song that starts playing in the car, in the face of someone who quickly walks by on the street, and everything comes flooding back, the presence, the absence, what was, and what will never be again. They still wonder if you feel this way too, if you also feel your heart skip a beat when you remember, if you also go quiet when the subject touches where it hurts. And they ask themselves, why did you go? Why didn't you stay? Why didn't you try just a little longer? This waiting doesn't demand, doesn't pressure, but it's there, every day, in the uncertainty of whether you feel the same, in the desire to know how you are, in the fear of asking, in the certainty that even if they did ask, you might not respond. But still, wait. And time keeps passing, and the birthdays come, and the dates return, and everything is a memory. Have you ever lived this? Have you ever been that person? Have you felt that someone left you waiting in the dark, without saying if they were coming back. There are stories that don't scream, but they never silence. There are feelings that don't explode, but they burn inside, slowly, deeply, unforgettably. The waiting continues, not in time, but in the soul. And that person, the one you think has forgotten, still hopes, in silence, to run into you by chance, on the street, in some random cafe. At the end of a day when the heart was already tired, they wouldn't say anything, wouldn't ask for anything. But their gaze would give it all away. You would notice, you would feel, and maybe wouldn't know what to do, because the truth is you feel it too. You just don't know what to do with it. There are feelings that don't admit, but that live there, hidden behind pride, waiting for a sign, a movement, a courage. If you've read this far and it's struck you, maybe there's still time, or maybe not. But the waiting, this still lives. It hears you, it feels you, it recognizes you, even if you don't say it, even if you never return. Do you feel that now? Do you feel the breath tightening? Do you feel that something is left behind? This waiting no longer depends on answers. It survives without promises, without return, without explanation. It has already understood that maybe nothing will change, but it continues, because there are feelings that don't ask for permission to exist. They simply stay. They stay in the body, in the scent of the clothes stored away, in the drawer that no longer opens, in the song that must be skipped. They linger in the glance that conceals but betrays. And even if no one sees, this waiting lives all the time. When no one is around, when the lights fade, when the phone goes silent. It's there that it grows. It's there that it tightens. It's there that you remember too, even if you say you don't, even if you followed another path, even if you lie down with other bodies, trying to suffocate just one name. You never said it, but you miss her too. You feel it when something good happens, and your first reaction would be to share it with her. You feel it when something bad happens, and your first impulse would be to hear her voice, but you don't say it, you never did. And maybe you never will. Still, the waiting continues. She has already understood that you won't come back, but that doesn't make the feeling go away. Because absence never takes the place of love. It just changes the type of pain. This person who waits for you doesn't live in stagnation. She hasn't stopped in time. She breathes, works, smiles, but something inside her remains trapped in that moment, in that wound that hasn't fully healed, in that gaze that never said goodbye. And every time she sees a couple reuniting, something pulses, something weighs heavily. Something asks, why didn't it happen like that for us? Have you ever had that kind of question? The one that repeats itself even when your mind tries to ignore it. The one that pops up in the middle of traffic, or in the shower, or in the grocery line. That's what waiting does. It arises when everything seems normal, but inside, nothing is. Because you didn't heal either. You just pushed it down, you just covered it up, you just threw something over it. But what hasn't been said still lives there, and what hasn't been experienced still cries out. The truth is that the connection between two doesn't die like that. Not when it was real, not when it touched deeply, not when it left marks. This person still carries the details. She still knows the sound of your voice when you're tired. She still remembers your gaze when you tried to hide your fear. She still feels the touch that you've already forgotten how it was. But she hasn't forgotten, and maybe she never will. Can you understand that? Can you imagine what it's like to keep living with a name lodged in your soul, with vivid memories inside a body that tries to smile? It's easy to look from the outside and say it's over. It's easy to ignore. It's easy to turn the page when you have the illusion of control. But feelings don't work that way. They're like wounds on raw flesh. You cover them, but the wind still hurts. And the cruelest part, sometimes she wonders if the blame lies with her, if she could have done things differently, if it was just a matter of timing or a mistake of fate. But deep down she knows she did everything she could, and still, you left. And now, she doesn't hope for a return, not anymore. But she hopes that, at least once, you recognize it. Even if it's just in thought, even if it's silent, even if it's too late, do you recognize it? Do you feel it? Does this story still live inside you? Or have you buried it so deep that you won't allow yourself to remember? If that's the case, come back here tomorrow, or in a week. This wait has no deadline, but it exists. And maybe you're also waiting for something you can't name. What if it were possible to go back for a moment, not to the place, but to the exact moment when everything started to slip away? Do you remember that conversation that ended in noise, the gaze that hesitated before turning away, the touch that almost happened but stopped halfway, the words that got stuck in the throat, the choice that felt too right for the heart to accept it was there? That's when something in you broke, without a sound, without warning, like something falling into water and sinking slowly, leaving no traces on the surface. And life went on. Yes, but a part didn't move on with the rest. A part stayed there, frozen, reliving the same seconds like an echo trapped in time. And no matter how much she tried, she couldn't shake that echo from within, because some stories continue even after the end. They linger in memories, in involuntary reactions, in dreams that appear uninvited. This person who still waits for you. She doesn't want explanations. She doesn't want justifications. She just wants to know if it was real. Because if it was real for you, then maybe it wasn't in vain. That's what she hopes for. Not your return, but your truth. However silent it may be, however late it may come. She waits for the moment when, alone, you're going to admit, even if just to yourself, that you also miss it, that you've thought about going back, that you still hold on to photos and feel your breath change. Have you ever been through this? Have you ever lived this kind of waiting, that doesn't ask, doesn't push, but consumes every bit of presence? Because some waits don't have a date, they just have intensity, and this one, it still breathes. It breathes in the memories no one has seen. It breathes in the days when everything seems normal, but something inside trembles without explanation. It waits to this day, even when it smiles at someone else, even when it swears it has moved on, even when it says it has forgotten. And maybe one day everything will quiet down for good. But until then, the present still lives, in a corner of the heart that no one visits, in a sound that only silence recognizes, in a longing that doesn't ask for permission, but always returns. And when it comes back again, because it will come back, what are you going to do? Will you keep pretending that you don't feel? Will you try to fill it with distractions that could only be healed by presence? Or will you, for the first time, admit, yes, I've waited too, I just didn't know how to say it. This confession changes everything, even if it never reaches them, even if it's never spoken out loud, even if you only say it while looking at the ceiling in some random dawn. Some feelings don't need an audience, they need courage. And it's that courage that they still wait for, more than your return, more than an apology. Courage to feel, courage to not deny. Courage to recognize that you weren't just another story. You weren't, and you know that. Life can go on, the days can pile up, but some absences become eternal because they were never replaced. That person still holds the space, not as a weakness, but as respect for what you lived. Do you hold it too? They don't want to hear your voice anymore, but they would still like to know if you feel. If at some moment in the day the thought returns, if your silence is a lack of love or too much fear to get close again. This is what she doesn't know, and it's what keeps her trapped, because if it were a lack of love, she would have left completely. But it doesn't seem that way, it never has. You lingered in the subtext, in the almost, in the interrupted possibility, in the promise that was never made but was always there, hovering. Some ties don't need to be fastened. They are created in a glance, in the way two souls recognize each other, in the subtle gesture that no one else understands, in the silent connection that still exists. And that bond indeed still exists, even as time tries to untie it, even as life tries to separate it. You never pulled the cord all the way, you never tore it apart, you just let go. And whoever stayed, stayed holding on alone. This is the pain that was never spoken. The pain of still being tied to something that doesn't move but also doesn't disappear. And yet she remained, not out of illusion, not out of fantasy, but because of a living memory, because of a presence that insists on coming back, even when everything tries to push it away. And believe me, she has tried to move on, tried to close the chapter, tried to fill the void, but no embrace felt the same, no conversation had the same depth, no gaze brought the same strange yet unsettling peace that you used to. Yes, and peace and unease. At the same time, as if she knew it was right, yet always on the verge of ending. It's this kind of love that leaves a mark, the kind that never gives itself fully, but also never fully goes away. Do you know what that's like? Do you know what it's like to try to forget while deep down just trying to survive? She lives in this, in a present that tries to exist without what defined her past. And the waiting is no longer for a reunion. She has already understood that perhaps it will never happen. But the soul still bends from time to time in a silent reverence to what was. And when everything goes quiet, when the world slows down, it's your name that comes to mind. Not as pain, but as a shaped absence, like an exact space that no other presence occupies. It's in that moment that she understands. It's not a matter of forgetting. It's a matter of learning to live with what was missing. This is the waiting, not for a return, but for peace. And even without knowing, you're still in it. Present, absent, latent, like a sound that can no longer be heard, but the body still reacts when it resonates. If this strikes you, if on some level you recognize all of this, then maybe there's still something in you that waits as well. And if that's the case, stay, come back tomorrow. Come back later. The waiting has no end, but it has pauses. And the next could be now. If this touched you, comment below on how you felt. Subscribe to receive more messages like this. Like and share with someone who needs to read this today. Waiting also lives in silence.